Hi, we're Quentin Curious Volumes. My name is James, and today is the last day of May, so I'm going to tell you what I'm going to read in June. Um, First I'll tell you what I read in May. It was a pretty good reading month. I finished um, the second volume of In Search of Lost Time, and I participated in the Horror Mayhem event by reading a bunch of horror books, including a collection of Edgar Allan Poe stories. And I'll say this about Poe. I think I said it last time that his best stories are excellent and compact and very effective, and his not best stories are uh, sometimes meandering messes without any point. But the good ones are really good. I also read Carrie by Stephen King, which I already told you not crazy about, though I will give Stephen King another try. It'll be a while, maybe next year. Um, and I read Henry James's The Turn of the Screw, um, which is also compact and effective at building this sort of atmosphere of menace and mystery. At the end, it's kind of hard to tell what actually. There's not really a clear explanation. Is there a clear explanation in all the Poe stories? No, but is there one in Carrie? Not really. But it seems that she has inherited her, let's just say her special abilities. It's passed genetically, I suppose. Well, let's see. What else was there? Uh, I'm still reading a short, independently published horror story called Man This House, Man F This House. And it's okay. I don't think it's as funny as the author intends it to be. Um, it's about a family of four, uh, kind of idiotic doofus father and his homemaker wife, a 10-year-old son, and I think it's like a 9-year-old daughter. And they're moving into a new house. They've moved for the father's job, and this house is on a cul-de-sac, and it very quickly becomes clear that there is something unusual about this house. Um, a couple of things I'll say. On the first day, they've moved. They've driven to this new town. They're in the new house. The movers come late and unpack everything into the house. And the mother makes them all dinner. She makes a pot roast on the day that they just moved into a new house. This is completely unrealistic. No one makes a pot roast on their first day in a new house, especially if the movers arrive late. I mean, if you arrive early in the morning, you get your stuff out. Maybe you do that. You're probably not even going to the supermarket to buy a chuck roast. Look, I'm telling you, it took me completely out of it. No way. Um, and their 10-year-old son, who is, I think he's supposed to be kind of the center of the story. He's extremely precocious, very smart, and is planning a sort of a team costume for Halloween. That he and his sister have a tradition of dressing as a pair, and he always dresses as a historical figure named Nancy. So the first time we're told they did this, they went as Sid and Nancy, where he was Nancy Spungen and his sister was Sid Vicious. And this was when he was, if you do the math according to the story, he would have been 7 years old. What 7-year-old is going as Nancy Spungen for Halloween? I don't buy it. Anyway, it's a horror story. It's a silly novella. I shouldn't pick it apart that much. I've had more to say about this than I had to say about Henry James, so I'm probably my proportion is way off. Okay, so let's move on. Another great thing a really fun thing that I've been looking at in the past month is this collection of essays and reviews by Evelyn Waugh. I'll probably never read this entire thing, but it's just got all these cool English things to it. I mean, if you're into English stuff, he has this essay about called "Laying Down a Wine Cellar." I guess this was published in Harper's Bazaar of London in 1937, and he's kind of lamenting that wine drinking and building cellars has become less popular. An architect recently told me a very sad thing, that of the clients for whom he has built houses in the past 20 years, not 1 in 100 has asked him to provide a wine cellar. So this is the sort of thing that is, well, look at even Waugh. Has anyone ever looked more English than that? So of course he's upset that people aren't building wine cellars in their new houses. But then this will probably be interest to my bibliophiles. The choice of wine is as wide as the choice of books for a library or plants for a garden. The traditional, though rather recent tradition, pride of the English cellar is its port. If any further evidence were needed of the decadence of the age, it is the decrease in interest in port. Yes, finally someone said it, right? And he attributes this to Francophilia run amok among the English drinking public. People are too into French wines, and they're not drinking port. But he says, port is unique among wines, in that the better it is, the iller one can feel after drinking it heavily. A hangover should be unknown to the wine drinker, but half a bottle of vintage port has given many a man a queasy morning, and is on such mornings as this as we feel most francophile. And then there's another. I'll read you just one more short passage. Port is essentially a wine for the home, and the restaurant habit is killing it. There are 100 reasons why it is practically impossible to get good port at any restaurant, or to enjoy it even if it were procurable. More than anything, it is being killed by tobacco. It is not a fetish that you cannot smoke with or near port. If you do not believe this, take a glass of it, sip half attentively, then light a cigarette and finish it. If you cannot taste the difference, it is not worth your while ever talking or thinking about wine again. Stick to gin. So, port is always going to be an interest for the civilized English gentleman, says Evelyn Waugh. So there's a lot of fun. I've also started reading Marion Meade's biography of Eleanor of Aquitaine. Eleanor of Aquitaine was the Queen of France, and then the Queen of England, married to two different kings, and she was the mother of two kings of England, one of the few women to go on crusade. She went on the Second Crusade with Louis VII of France when they were married. Just a very interesting woman who interacted with some more important and powerful people of her time, and was one of the most important and powerful people of her time. I've read a part of a historical novel of Eleanor of Aquitaine that my wife recommended to me, called The Summer Queen, by Chadwick was the author's name, and that was very good. So I'm early in this, and a lot of the stories in there are familiar here. But this is really well written. It's from the 70s, but if you can find a copy and you're interested in Eleanor, this is one of those biographies that really reads like a novel, as they say. So what's going to happen in this coming month, in the month of June? Well, everyone's doing this, and who am I to resist reading Dune in June? I've never read this before, but I got this motion picture tie-in copy. I looked on my beloved thriftbooks.com, and there were very few copies available. Well, there were no copies available of a decent used book of Dune. So I just got the big chunky mass market of the day, and there it is. Really, that's the way to read Dune, isn't it? That's the way generations of misfits and high school students have encountered this book. So this is a first time read for me. I'm looking forward to it. I'm also going to participate in the Summer of Sport, and I'm going to read Levels of the Game by John McPhee. This John McPhee, of course, if you don't know, is a great essayist, a New Yorker style essayist. Writes these very long nonfiction profiles, and he'll take pretty much any subject and make it interesting. Sautéing green peppers or something. So Levels of the Game is a description of a tennis match played between Arthur Ashe and Clark Grabner at Forest Hills. And yeah, I mean, do I know about tennis? Not really. Arthur Ashe in the 70s and 80s, he was everywhere. He was a very popular sports figure. So it'll be interesting to read that. And then I'm also going to, I said I was going to participate in the June on the Range. I already read True Grit last month, or over the last week, and I can't recommend that enough. It was one of the best books I've read this year, True Grit by Charles Portis, and it was of course made into a couple of really good movies. Well, I only saw the Coen Brothers one. Liked it a lot. I didn't see the earlier one. But this is the story of a young girl who's 14 years old, but it's narrated by her when she is an old woman. She's about 80 years old, and she's retelling what happened to her when she went to avenge the murder of her father. She lays it all out in the first paragraph, what happened, or that is what the story is. So her father's been murdered by someone who was working for them, and she travels to Fort Smith, Arkansas, to get his body and send it back home, but also to hire someone to go and track down the killer who has escaped into Indian country, or what we now call Oklahoma. The man she hires is a kind of rough and ready federal marshal named Rooster Cogburn, and they embark to find this man. They have all kinds of adventures. The thing that really makes this novel so great is the voice of this character, Maddie Potts. The way she tells the story, her kind of sense of right and wrong, her very rigid ideas about the world. The fact that she has really no sense of humor whatsoever about anything is kind of hilarious in a way, and so it's kind of this deadpan voice. You have to give this book a try if you haven't. And also, I read the Red Badge of Courage by Stephen Crane last month. Leaving all these things out. So that is the story of a private soldier in the Union Army in the American Civil War. We get a little bit of his backstory, how he decided to enlist, and it's all told basically from his point of view. You wouldn't quite call it stream of consciousness, but it's quite close, and it follows his thinking as he goes from sort of gung-ho to terrified to wishing he would just die to feeling like maybe he can make it through and maybe he needs to redeem himself. It's just all kind of in his head, and all of these things go through his mind as he's experiencing the horrors of this war. There's also a lot of sort of impressionistic description of landscape and soldiers moving around and what it looks like when you're being shot at from across a field from where there are troops in a stand of trees, and the there's muzzle flash coming out and all, what the cannons or the big guns sound like as they're going off. So yeah, a very kind of modern novel in that sense, in the sensual description of experience. So I'm also planning this month to read a couple of westerns besides True Grit. I started that early, finished it early, but I have some on my Kindle. I got them because they were part of Kindle Unlimited, and I don't remember what they're called. Maybe Trail of the Rifle Pine or Sagebrush Sam and the Sagebrush Kid. I don't know. They're westerns. They have westerny names. Curl Mulatto, maybe. So I guess I'll read those, and I'll tell you what I think of them. So that's what I have today. Thanks for watching. I will talk to you later. Bye.